Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel Echo of Life. Let's start. There's a particular kind of weariness that rest doesn't mend. You can sleep for hours and still rise with a heaviness not in your limbs, but somewhere deeper, as if your spirit is shouldering invisible baggage you cannot seem to set down. When people ask what's wrong, you struggle to explain because it isn't one catastrophic event that drained you. It's the accumulation of countless small burdens that have quietly siphoned your energy over time. People who feel this profound fatigue don't necessarily wish to vanish. They simply long for the noise to cease. The noise of external expectations, of relentless comparison, of performing wellness when each day feels like a role you never auditioned to play. Psychologists describe this state as emotional exhaustion, a point where the mind ceases its struggle not from weakness, but from utter depletion. It occurs when your emotional output has consistently outpaced your emotional input, when you keep giving of yourself to survive while receiving little in return. Often, this exhaustion is invisible. Externally, these individuals may appear functional, working, smiling, fulfilling duties, but inside, the world feels muted. Joy becomes like a distant language they once knew how to speak but can no longer recall. What's compelling is that this is not merely emotional. It's biological. The brain under prolonged stress begins to rewire itself for survival. It starts filtering experiences through a lens of fatigue. Reward systems slow. Dopamine responses weaken. Motivation, that vital spark that makes life feel meaningful, fades like a light dimming from within. So when someone says, "I'm just tired," it's not laziness. It's the psyche stating, "I've been carrying too much for too long." Here, psychology meets our shared humanity, because behind every weary spirit is a story not of failure, but of immense effort. Those who are tired of existing are frequently the ones who have tried hardest to keep everything together. They are the peacemakers, the helpers, the ones who show up even when they have nothing left to give. They've learned how to survive chaos, but never how to rest in peace. Consider our world, which often rewards productivity over peace. You're praised for overtime, seldom for a quiet day of reflection. You're celebrated for pushing through, rarely for slowing down. Consequently, people learn to equate their worth with constant motion. And when they finally pause, they feel guilt, as if rest is a form of failure. This guilt traps them in silent exhaustion. The mind whispers, "You don't deserve rest until you've earned it." But herein lies the paradox. If you wait until you've earned rest, you may never receive it, because modern life always presents more to do, prove, and fix. So you keep running, even when you've forgotten why you began. One of the more painful truths is this: being tired of existing doesn't signify weakness. It often means you've been strong for too long, carrying emotions you never processed, responsibilities you never sought, and expectations no one could meet. After years of pretending the weight doesn't matter, your spirit finally whispers, "I can't keep doing this." There's a psychological term, anhedonia, the diminished ability to feel pleasure. It's not about sadness, but emptiness. Imagine living in grayscale where even good things feel neutral. This is what happens when the brain enters self-preservation mode. It stops reaching for joy because it has learned joy is unreliable. It becomes safer to expect nothing than to risk disappointment again. Individuals in this state often begin to withdraw, not because they want to, but because social energy becomes too costly. Small talk can feel like lifting a mountain. They may cancel plans, grow quiet in conversations, or seek more solitude, not from dislike of others, but because their nervous system can't handle one more emotional demand. Yet here's what many misunderstand. These individuals aren't giving up. They are trying to protect themselves. When the world becomes too loud, isolation can feel like shelter in a storm. And even if the silence feels empty, at least it doesn't actively wound. This fatigue is cumulative, built from years of emotional suppression. Every "I'm fine" uttered when you weren't. Every time you smiled instead of cried. Every instance you stayed silent to avoid conflict. Each of these moments accumulates until one day, you can no longer muster the energy to pretend. That's when you begin to notice the subtle signs. Music doesn't resonate as it once did. Laughter feels forced. Time seems to drag. You look around and wonder when life stopped feeling like living. There's another layer, meaning fatigue. When people lose touch with what gives their life purpose, everything begins to feel heavy. It's not that they hate existence. It's that they struggle to find a reason to continue the cycle. Wake, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. As days blur together, they start asking, what's the point? But this question itself isn't hopeless. It's a signal of awakening. When the soul asks, what's the point? It is really saying, I need a reason to stay. This moment, however bleak it feels, is often where transformation begins. Because profound tiredness at its core is a signal, a message from your subconscious that something in your life is no longer aligned with who you are. That realization, while painful, can also be freeing. It means there is something to reclaim. Purpose, authenticity, or even simple peace. One of psychology's profound discoveries is that meaning is medicine. As psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived concentration camps during World War II, observed, humans can endure almost anyhow if they have a why. People who rediscover their why often find their energy returning, not instantly but gradually. The tiredness begins to shift from despair to direction. It's the difference between, I'm exhausted because nothing matters, and I'm exhausted because I'm growing. So perhaps the goal isn't to erase the tiredness, but to listen to it. To treat it as a messenger, not a curse. Because somewhere within that exhaustion is a voice whispering, you've outgrown something. Maybe it's a job that drains you, a lifestyle that no longer fits, or a version of yourself that survived but no longer thrives. If you feel that pull, that quiet ache suggesting there must be more than this, you're not broken. You're awakening. There's a strange beauty in this. Because those who have known the weight of emotional exhaustion often become among the most compassionate souls you'll ever meet. They understand pain without words. They sense when others are struggling behind smiles. They learn to speak softly, love deeply, and value honesty above all because they've learned that pretending doesn't heal. This is the paradox of being tired of existing. It humbles you. It strips away illusions and forces you to confront what is real. You begin to realize that life isn't about constant achievement or endless motion. It's about alignment, about finding the quiet spaces where you can breathe without pretense. If you're reading this and something within you resonates, that invisible fatigue, that quiet ache, remember, you are not alone. You are not strange for feeling this way. You're simply human in a world that often forgets how to rest. You don't need to fix everything at once. You don't need to force joy or fake energy. All you need to do, just for now, is to stop fleeing from your tiredness and begin to hear what it's trying to tell you. Because sometimes being tired of existing isn't the end. It's the beginning of living differently. The moment you admit, I am tired, something shifts. For the first time, you are being honest, not with others but with yourself. And that honesty, however heavy it feels, is the foundation of healing. Until you name your fatigue, you'll keep trying to fix it with distractions. New goals, new habits, more screens, anything that mimics motion. But what you're truly craving isn't more movement. It's meaning. Meaning doesn't always come from grand achievements or life-altering breakthroughs. Sometimes it's found in the smallest, quietest moments. Watching rain streak a window, hearing a song that feels like it understands you, sitting in silence without needing to perform for anyone. In these moments, your nervous system finally sighs, thank you, because rest is not laziness. It's repair. When you begin to rest, not just physically but emotionally, you start to notice how much of your life has been driven by survival. Every decision, plan, and reaction has been about avoiding pain rather than cultivating peace. That's understandable. The human brain is wired to prioritize safety above happiness. That's why even when everything looks fine on paper, you can still feel hollow inside, because safety without meaning eventually feels like a cage. Here's a truth rarely spoken aloud. When you're tired of existing, it's not because you want to give up. It's because you want something deeper to live for, a reason that makes waking up feel worthwhile again, a reason larger than obligation or habit. And the beautiful thing is, that reason doesn't have to be monumental. It just has to be real. In psychology, there's a concept called existential fatigue. It's when the soul grows weary from living without clear purpose, not because life is bad, but because it's directionless. You can have comfort, stability, even success, but if it isn't aligned with who you truly are, it will drain you. Humans aren't meant to merely survive routines. We're meant to feel alive within them. That's why people experiencing this emptiness often start questioning everything. Their career, values, relationships, not because they're lost, but because their soul is tired of pretending. It's saying, this version of life no longer fits. And that realization, though painful, is sacred because it's the first step toward authenticity. You begin to ask deeper questions. What would my life look like if I stopped chasing approval? What would I do if I wasn't afraid of disappointing others? What if peace mattered more than productivity? Suddenly, the exhaustion starts to make sense. It wasn't weakness. It was resistance. Your mind fighting against a version of life that no longer aligns with your truth. Here's something often overlooked. Energy doesn't come only from sleep or nutrition. It comes from alignment. When your actions reflect your values, you feel light. When they don't, even small tasks can feel impossible. That's why you can work 12 hours on something you love and feel energized, yet spend 2 hours on something you dislike and feel depleted. The body follows the soul. So what can you do when you feel this weary? The answer isn't to overhaul your life overnight. It's to begin with small acts of honesty. Start noticing what drains you and what nourishes you. Maybe it's certain people, your daily routine, or the version of yourself that constantly strives to appear strong. Once you see these patterns, you can begin to release them, not dramatically but gently. Because healing isn't a performance. It's a quiet returning. Somewhere along the way, you realize the world isn't demanding your perfection, you are. You've built impossible standards from fear that if you rest, you'll fall behind. But behind what? Behind whom? No one truly has it all figured out. Everyone is simply seeking small reasons to keep moving forward. The moment you stop comparing your timeline to others, you begin to see that peace was never waiting behind achievement. It was always waiting behind acceptance. Something powerful occurs when a person accepts their exhaustion without shame. It transforms how they treat themselves. Instead of pushing harder, they start listening more deeply. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" they ask, "What is my mind trying to tell me?" Slowly, that question becomes a bridge back to life. You start rediscovering wonder, not the loud, cinematic kind, but the subtle kind. The quiet beauty of small things. The way sunlight spills across your room in the morning, the aroma of coffee, how a favorite song makes you feel seen. These tiny anchors remind you that life doesn't have to be extraordinary to be meaningful. It just has to be felt. Ironically, feeling is something we often unlearn as we age. We're taught to analyze, optimize, stay productive, but rarely to simply feel, to sit with sadness without rushing to fix it, to hold joy without fearing its departure. People who are tired of existing have often lost touch with that raw emotional connection to life. They've grown numb not because they don't care, but because caring has hurt too much. The way back isn't through more control. It's through surrender, through allowing yourself to be human again. To cry without justification, to rest without guilt, to admit that you might not have all the answers right now. And that's okay, because sometimes the most courageous act isn't to keep pushing forward, but to stop, breathe, and begin again from a place of truth. Positive psychology research reveals that people who regularly seek awe moments, small, intentional experiences of wonder, report higher life satisfaction and lower burnout. So even when you feel empty, seeking awe can help reawaken something within. It might be gazing at the night sky, listening to moving music, or writing a letter to your younger self. Awe reconnects you with existence itself. It reminds you that you're still here, and that being here still matters. Perhaps that's the quiet miracle of being tired of existing. It strips life down to its essentials. It removes the noise, the performance, the illusion. It asks you to rebuild not a perfect life, but a true one. A life constructed around what genuinely nourishes you. So if you're in that place where simple things feel difficult, where days blur together, I want you to remember, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply being called to reconnect. Your tiredness is not a flaw. It's a compass. It's pointing you back towards something real, perhaps towards slowness, honesty, or meaning. And when that reconnection begins, even in the smallest way, the world starts to look a little different. Colors feel warmer. Music feels closer. You start to laugh again, not because everything is fixed, but because you've made peace with imperfection. And that peace, that quiet acceptance, is where real life begins again. The truth is, there will always be moments when the weight returns, days when you question your direction. But now you'll understand what it means. You'll recognize it not as an ending, but as a signal, a reminder that you are someone who feels deeply, thinks deeply, lives deeply. And that is something to be proud of, because maybe being tired of existing doesn't mean you failed at life. Maybe it means you finally paused long enough to realize that life deserves to be lived consciously, not merely endured. And that pause, that breath, that gentle awareness might just be the beginning of everything you've been searching for.